Namaste and welcome everyone to Happiness Factors Podcast, where we talk about everything mental wellness, tech, humanity, success, burnout, and even occasionally surviving the adulthood with caffeine and some opportunism. Real conversations with real people, with honest insights, and meaningful discussions on how to thrive without burning out in the process. So, if you are ambitious but also tired of the hustle culture, you are at the right place. This is your host, Anita Kumari Srivastava, and I'm super excited to welcome the one and only Jim Soss. Jim Soss is a longtime CRO with over 2 billion in bookings and 3x mass exits. And we are so fortunate to have him spare some time to talk to our listeners and share his wisdom. He is now dedicated to be in service of others by providing GTM consulting and advisory services. So without further ado, Jim, welcome to the Happiness Factors podcast. And I would love for you to talk in details about what you do and what listeners can learn from your wisdom.
Yeah, sounds great. Anita, thank you so much for honoring me with an invitation to be on the podcast, and I hope I could be of service to your wonderful listeners. I think you got me in a nutshell. From a career-wise perspective, I was a longtime CRO, couple times CEO, and man, it was all about growth and building businesses and driving businesses. My entire career was in B2B tech. And, I had my epiphany moment about 3 years ago. Talk about burnout. It was just kind of like, why do I still do what I do? And at that point in time, I decided I love so much about what I do: sales, customer success, rev ops, demand gen, marketing, go to market. But I no longer wanted to feel the pain that sometimes comes with some of these big high pressure jobs. So that's when I started my consultancy. I look to serve others. I try to do at least a third of my work complimentary, where I just try to help entrepreneurs and founders drive revenue and drive growth, because that's what they need for the business. I do billable work too, but more than anything, I just try to serve others, practice my craft, and to your point, have my own happiness factor as well.
Nice. That's amazing. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. So, you have driven over 2 billion in bookings and multiple exits and worked in the corporate world as well as in different leadership roles. So, what's the craziest this might actually work moment that you remember, which was uh, not just successful, but also lots of fun?
Yeah, there's probably a few things. I mean, we tend to have more positive feelings about businesses that we had a successful outcome. For me, my last big exit was with a company called Integrate, and I took them for 20 million to 70 million, and then we exited to a private equity group for a half a billion.
Wow.
And when I look at that tenure, I think, for me, it just your career, you build up and you have experiences and you have frameworks and you have things, but it was almost like the perfect blank canvas to kind of paint another masterpiece. And so there's just so many things about that experience I really enjoyed. A lot of it was the people. There was a lot of people in my org that had been with the business a long time, and I've always had great appreciation for how they welcomed me and supported me. And in many ways, you can't drive growth in many cases without driving change.
Totally.
And the people aspect of that was really great. The other thing that I really enjoyed about that experience is sometimes, go to market and driving revenue, it's a bit of a puzzle. It's a little bit of a mystery. I kind of like the aspect of I don't know, Sherlock Holmes or whoever where you study, you observe, and you do things that are maybe different or specific. But I really love the mystery there. And, sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're good, sometimes you're a little bit of both. And a lot of the strategies that were implemented there around positioning and story, how we organized the team, how we built revenue motions to be very specific. There was just a lot of things that give me pleasure. For me, winning means the business grows, employees can enjoy a successful outcome. Winning means you serve customers, you delight your customers, you always serve and delight your buyer. And then the last part of that is that staff wins too. They grow skills, they grow abilities, they get reward itself. And so, sorry to blabber on too long, but that's one experience that I cherished along those lines. There's a couple others, but that's the most recent one. I exited that business late in 2021. Talk about timing, Anita. Talk about timing. My gosh, we timed that right before some of the SaaS apocalypse, if we could ever use that word. I used to always call it the SaaS recession. But anyway, that's an experience that gave me a lot of pleasure.
Awesome. And feel free to go into as much details as you want because many of the listeners might have no idea about how this works. So the more details they get, the more they can learn from it. So don't worry about being long. And talk about thinking different, like you were mentioning in your example. I was recently listening to an episode of a podcast on Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, and he was saying that in this day of AI, the people who just wrote the basic programming that AI can do, but we still need people who think different. We still need people who can think outside the box. And those are the people who will be considered smart going forward in the day of AI. So that's really amazing. You already are way ahead of the time, right? Yeah.
I think it's a really great perspective. I mean, I'm such a big fan of what AI can do, but I also see it every day that, in its current state, and probably always, there are some limitations. And there is always that temptation of, we want things easy sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just our nature as humans. And, if I ask AI to do something, it does it. It doesn't always tell me if it's good or bad or whatever, but, some of this effort to direct it and critical thinking and not always sticking with the generic.
Yeah.
I think there are still some key edges that businesses need, and I don't think AI is going to give them that edge. In fact, I almost see opportunities for companies who can use AI appropriately,
Yeah.
but don't fall into the trap thinking that that is the edge it's going to give them exclusively. And I love competing against companies who that is their plan, because I love competing against generic, standard, assumptive, vanilla, bland. And a lot of times that's what you get. And I think it creates opportunities for companies to get an edge, to compete against them. But anyway, I'm a big fan of the technology. I use it a lot. I encourage my clients to use it, but I also try to teach boundaries or, filtering and clarity that needs to come with it.
Awesome. And like instead of bland, we need the spicy. Like in Indian language, we always love everything spicy.
That's right. I wish I could have better tolerance to spicy food. In fact, towards the end of this year, I'm probably going to be making a trip to that region. But for me, it's always a struggle with spicy.
The heat. Yeah. Here, in the West, they always think spicy means hot. No, I mean, chili is only one small ingredient. We have like dishes, we put 65 spices and chili is only one of them. So rest only add flavor, like coriander or cumin and stuff. So you can still eat spicy without the heat.
I love it. And I think you're right. Sometimes if you go to AI, you're going to get kind of bland flavors.
Totally.
And, thinking like the edge you get in different cultures, you want to be a little spicy, and it's hard to do that if I'm doing what everybody else is doing or assuming standard playbooks, frameworks, and so forth are going to work for for me just because it worked for some company, I don't know how long ago, kind of a thing. So I love that analogy. I might steal it, but I'll always give you full credit.
Totally. No, thank you. I'm glad you liked it. And it makes me feel that, okay, I'm smart or something, or going towards that. So tell me, what did success look like to you when you were 25 years old versus right now?
Oh, what a good question.
Thank you.
I would say for me at 25, um, it would probably was very focused. There was probably success was heavily around financial gain and financial reward, just to some degree based on my upbringing. So I'll be honest to tell you, some of it was very measured in dollars and cents, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think just like anybody at that age and time, you know, something to prove.
Yeah.
I think sometimes something to prove comes with titles and responsibility. So if I look back at 25, and I am a big planner myself, I like to set goals. A lot of times I use a planning method called DOSPA. I don't think it's very popular these days, but
What
it
is
was
that?
a relatively known planning method. Goals, objectives, strategies, plans, and activities, DOSPA. But
Okay.
anyway, if I look back, and I'm sure I have it, and I could go look at the gospel I wrote when I was 25, I'm sure there was numbers like, net worth of X dollars by Y age, have this role, this responsibility and title. And I know at that point in time, I definitely felt like my career wouldn't be complete if I didn't run a business.
Uh-huh.
And I had a lot of passion to be a CEO. And after the first time I was a CEO and took over a venture-backed company and pivoted it and drove growth and had a really successful exit, after that, I think I had better clarity on what would make me happy. And it wasn't that I had to ever have that title again. And now I'm very different. Now for me, success is, did I make human connections? Did I serve somebody?
Oh,
Did I
nice.
help them in some way in their trajectory? Was there any knowledge, skill, experience, technique, framework, methodology that I could pass on to somebody and it leads to some sort of meaningful outcome, whether it's for the business, whether it's for their career and so forth. So I am, I always like to tell people I am very ambitious for the work I do when I'm working with my clients. I am no longer an ambitious person. So I try to measure success around, did I make good human connections? Did I pass on knowledge? And did I change trajectories of businesses that in some shape or form allow people to be served? So it's different. I never will forget. I was always wired to work.
Uh-huh.
I was always, when you're the person that people look to when they're trying to drive growth, you carry a responsibility all the
Sure.
time. And every month and every quarter, there's a number to be made. And in many ways, you just get used to that pressure. And in some regards, that role as the leader can be very lonely, right? Because you you're managing, maybe you're the CEO or you're managing a CEO, you're managing a board, you've got leaders, you've got like so forth. And anyway, I'll never forget, I was on vacation. I was hiking the volcano park in Hawaii on the main island, and I here I am in a beautiful setting doing things I love to do, and I'm thinking about the business, and I'm thinking about um, growth and so forth, and I'm literally hiking, and an hour goes by and I'm like, why do I do this? Why do I still do this? And I never really asked myself that question. And I hiked another half hour, and literally by the end of a 3 hour hike, I had worked it out in my mind that I need to stop. I mean, after that trip, I was a CRO at the time. I resigned. I did a 6 month transition. But I can tell you almost with some weird clarity the moment where I wanted my purpose to change. And it's hard because sometimes for so many years you get wired a certain way. And
Totally.
to be honest, I have not completely unwired from so many years of of having that urgency and so forth. But I try to get better every day, even at that.
Oh, that's nice. That's amazing. And I do think that that volcano park does have impact on people. Like I went there when I was trying to heal from an abusive relationship, and when I went to that park and they told me the story about the goddess Pele, like
Yes.
right, how the volcano happened and things like that, it was so transforming and so amazing, and especially to see the volcano at night with the full moon. It was ethereal, right? I would always remember that forever, and totally changed not just my thinking but helped me heal much faster, I would say, with when I was trying, because it changes the perspective. Even the air there is totally different
Yeah,
compared
that's a
to.
really interesting input. I never really gave it thought about how maybe my environment helped me have clarity. I just thought it was just maybe um, I don't know, having a moment and so forth. But I don't
Mhm.
know. Maybe Pele was speaking to me.
Totally. Maybe it was both. Maybe it was both together, right? Right place, right time, I would say. So, because the energy there is very different. And I'm an empath, so I'm very sensitive to energy, even for building, not just people. And so there, the energy was totally, totally different compared to other places or things. Just like I would say the Red Rock in Sedona, that has a very amazing energy as well. So tell me, what separates the great CROs from great sales leaders?
Well, in my mind, CRO is not just managing cells. And like any title, like any role, things get confused and bastardized, and there's no standard definitions. Um, but for me, a true CRO is someone who can manage that full buyer customer journey.
Yeah.
They're just as passionate around how do I acquire and just as passionate around how do I defend and grow.
Hmm.
And so, in many cases, you're right. A lot of CROs are just focused on trying to get that initial booking. And I think a true CRO is somebody who has the experience and the skills to manage the full journey.
Uh-huh.
If you want to drive growth, and in these days, I always thought about that way, you want to drive efficient growth.
Yes.
The days of it always spikes and valleys, but the day of
Mhm.
just grow and who cares if you're losing a boatload of money. But if you want to drive growth and you want to drive efficient growth, you've got to have a perspective around that full journey. Your churn is
Mhm.
heavily influenced by who you accept as a customer right from the start, and the staff and the roles and the skills and the story and so forth. If it's not integrated and it's not thoughtful, I think people struggle.
Mhm.
A CRO should be able to manage that journey. That CRO should have the customer and buyer top of mind.
Yeah.
and they need to have enough, um, you know, grit and hands-on. Um, a lot of times you get big roles and big titles, and they evolve to be more figureheadish.
Yeah.
In fact, at one point in time, I was part of a company. We had a great exit to Oracle. I stayed at Oracle for a while, but ultimately I was like, I need to get out of here
Yeah.
because although I had more responsibility, and then although my org grew and I
Yeah.
had on paper achieved more, I felt I was getting dumber every day just because I was losing touch with the business. And,
Yeah.
so anyway, great CROs, they can manage the full journey. Great
Totally.
CROs are not figureheads. They're not empty suits. They're not micromanagers, but they have enough touch to the business that at the end of the day, they can go make that pitch. They can go drive that negotiation and so forth. And then ultimately, I think the best CROs are ones who can motivate and teach. Um, and so what I see a lot of times people carrying that title
Uh-huh.
without the level of experience or the breadth of exposure. And now we have somebody, I don't know, managing customer success or account management for the first time. Um, but everyone's got to have their start. Everyone has to evolve and grow. Um, I felt like with the SaaS explosion,
Uh-huh.
there were so many jobs, so many companies that the quality of the talent was diminishing. Meaning, I can go from being a bag carrying salesperson to now I'm VP of sales and I'm on that trajectory in 18 months. And along the way, you the, the the talent wasn't able to develop the experience and the methodology and the framework. And it really changed my hiring practices because you want talent who can fit the role. And sometimes you need people who can build, sometimes you need people who can execute.
Totally.
And I was surprised how often, even times when I'm hiring a VP of sales or a VP of customer success, and I'm connected with somebody and I'm trying to understand them and I want to understand their story. And at the end of the day, they had big titles and they had experience for like 5, 6 years. But when it really came down to it, when it came time to understand the skill level
Yeah.
and the build level, like it was a big gap. So anyway, blah 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 blah. I think um, AI can be a great tool to help people, enable themselves and so forth. But I would just say that a lot of times, that CRO should be full journey, should be hands-on, should be a figurehead, should be able to lead from the front, should be able to teach and motivate. And it's hard to do that if you haven't had enough breadth of experience.
Totally. Totally agree. Great inputs. So, my next question is about scaling. So, you have scaled companies through massive growth. So, when you are scaling very quickly and very fast, what breaks first? The system, the strategy, or the humans?
I feel like it's really, I want to say the system.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes the system fails because of the strategy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and that's been balanced out a little bit. Sometimes the people aren't always breaking because people just think I'll go hire more people.
Yeah.
And then we keep throwing bodies at something
Mm.
that doesn't make sense. And again, I think those days are somewhat over. Unfortunately, we see a lot of layoffs and so forth.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're blaming the AI. Probably that's some of it.
Mhm.
Some of it is that they probably had a scale issue and they were throwing bodies at it, and they didn't have the right system in place. And it's not uncommon for me. So I've seen businesses, well over 100 million. I can think of a business now that I'm supporting that's over 300 million, and the system, the policy, the process, the framework to allow that business to scale isn't there. And it's really tricky when you have businesses that size,
Yes.
and now you need to go build that structure. So for me, the key to scaling a business is just to have an eye on that next phase, that next milestone, and just make sure you're purposeful, not only with your org, with your systems, to make sure you're planning ahead, because it's tricky when we're now a much larger business and we're under pressure to drive growth. And the reality is we need some time to build some infrastructure. And that's the tricky part. That's where we all use the analogy, we're trying to fly the plane while we're trying to build the plane.
Yeah.
I used to think by the end of my full-time CRO career, I was really good at that. But I am just saying there's even limits to that. And it's nice if you don't let things get that unsystematized,
Yeah.
because it makes it harder. And nobody is in a position to call timeout. Nobody wants to hear about, I need to take a quarter to do this or that or the other. It just doesn't exist. I even see it's kind of different. I see it a lot on product.
Yeah.
I see these startups. I build this product. I'm so enamored with VC. It's like a drug. I got to raise money. I got to
Yeah.
raise money. Raising money is not the same thing as building a great company. But
Tot-
now I built this product, and now I'm on the hook to double, triple, triple, whatever, quad,
Mhm.
quad, triple, triple. Now I'm under pressure. And the reality is they've got a product that they built really quickly, and it may not have the architecture and the framework and the structure, even in an AI world, to redo it. No one's going to be like, oh, hey, I'm going to rebuild my product.
Yeah.
So, hey, don't worry about the growth. No, I mean, it's, there's just balance there, along those ways. So I don't know. I just feel like a lot of times strategy is off, but a lot of times people have the strategy enough.
Yeah.
But I think systems, um, I see that breaking
Mhm.
earlier because you got to have a little bit of, I don't know, nerdiness, geekiness,
Mhm.
process-oriented OCD. And sometimes it's hard to get enough of that in some of the roles. And then, not that you asked, but the thing I always see on the strategy side is, the peanut butter method, people trying to spread it out,
Yeah.
um, lack of focus. And so now I'm trying to be everything to everybody. I'm trying to
Yeah.
do a global strategy. I'm trying to do different rev motions. I'm trying to be SMB enterprise. Like I'm trying to do everything, and I don't have the system to it. I don't have the budget to do it. I've got, maybe some staff. And so if I see things breaking on the strategy side, typically it's because of lack of focus.
Yeah.
Um, but more often than not, it's the infrastructure to scale.
Yeah. Totally true. So, do you think like if strategy, people, and the systems are aligned well and focused, then breakout has less chances of happening quickly?
Has less chance if
Yeah,
they're not
because they are aligned.
aligned.
Yeah, if they are aligned and focused.
If they are aligned, then I think your chances are great. Now, listen, it just depends
Yeah.
on when you have to cash that check, so to speak. So
Yes.
sometimes I might have a kick-ass idea. I might catch a wave at the right time, a
Mm-hmm.
trend, a wave, legislation, regulation, or just industry wave. Hey, I was the first AI agent out there who helped, like, so, and we could go through phenomenal growth, right? But
Totally.
sooner or later, I'm going to have to cash the check around having the alignment that you have. And it just, some people have to cash that check much later.
Uh-huh.
Some, they're not going to get past some of those initial milestones and they have to cash it much earlier. But yes, I agree. In fact, the assessment that I do, I
Mm-hmm.
believe in four pillars.
Yeah.
So in a sense, if you look at those four pillars, I go in and I look at the strategy and vision. I
Yeah.
go look at the talent
Mm-hmm.
and I go look at the operational policy and um, structure, and then I look at the automation and technology. And so when I go and assess, I believe those four pieces need to be aligned. And if they're not, uh, you know, you're not going to have as much success. Now, crawl, walk, run, different things have different priorities at different times. But I do believe that those are four key interlocking pieces that, to your point, need proper alignment in
Totally.
order for you to just keep staying ahead of your growth. Um, I could have great talent and horrible strategy. I could have great strategy, great talent, and horrible playbooks, methodology, operating process. I could have all that and poor automation and technology. You get it.
Yeah.
I could have three of those things and be hurting on one, and it could hurt my trajectory. We want to grow. We want to grow really fast, but we
Yeah.
also want to grow efficiently too. We want to make money.
Yes. Totally. The,
Most businesses can't be like NVIDIA or some of these guys where, you know, it's parabolic growth, so
no, totally. And also, I know right now, actually, lots of layoffs are happening. And in one of the companies, I know why more layoffs are happening is because they used to, even if they don't have the particular like job responsibility, they would hire a very talented engineer because they were afraid the competitor will hire them and they'll just keep them. So now they cannot afford to keep them anymore. So of course they have to lay them off. So
yeah, it's unfortunate, but we've had aqua hire,
yeah,
strategies. I buy companies to do it, and then we've had strategies where I'm trying to keep talent off the marketplace and so forth. And it's tricky. I get it. We need to serve the business, but um, it's it's tricky because they are humans, they are people, they have families, they have goals, they have items, and
totally.
now we've got a lot of talent out there and a lot of people may have built their career around a tech industry that may never be what it has been for a long period of time.
Totally.
I mean, um, but hopefully people are smart,
Yeah.
um, meaning they understood why they were hired, how they were hired. They've understood the value that they were bringing or not bringing. Hopefully, they've extracted all the reward they could get, and hopefully, they've managed their own financials and their own business, their own personal business, to be in a great position. It's not something that I overspend time on, but too
Uh-huh.
often I see people who who've given up too much of their power because they're not in the financial position they should be.
Yes.
And then that relationship
Hmm.
they have with the company
Yeah.
is is very different. Anyway, sorry to get on a tangent
No,
there with
no,
you,
it's
Anita.
totally useful. And I think many people need to learn that Because sometimes it happens in big companies. One of the first companies I had worked there, we it was a big company and good salaries, but people is sometimes, because their first job, they used to just make their how they will spend the salary before the salary even arrived, and that's not a good strategy for long term financial, I would say, success, or sustaining yourself when you don't have a job. So it's very good advice for people, like they need to at least keep something for the bad times, for the rainy days, because that.
Absolutely. And you see it a lot in go to market. Hey, I had a big bonus. Hey, I had this. Well, that doesn't mean that's going to happen next year or whatever.
Yes,
Now, there are some companies that their trajectory maybe can lead to rightful confidence.
yes,
I would say there's not many of those companies out there, and people should protect themselves just as those companies are protecting themselves. And
totally.
it's a partnership. Expectations should be clear, but I've always counseled people, you want to have power, and as soon as you're scared to death that you're not going to have a job next week, next month, and you're not in the position, you've actually given up a lot of your power, and you just want to make sure you're Wonder Woman or Superman or whatever. Like, don't give up your power. Put yourself in a position that you can control your life.
Yeah, and always have something for the rainy days, like build that strategy. Like they say
Absolutely.
10%, 30%, whatever you can save, right? Depending on your situation, to save it.
Just work the plan. I mean, I had a vision in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, First of all, I've never been an extravagant person. I'm an aspiring minimalist. I don't like stuff. I don't want a lot of stuff. Stuff is not what defines me. But
Yeah,
um, you know, years ago, I had envisioned that I didn't want to be at a certain stage of my life and career and still on the whatever we want to call it, gerbil wheel
the
of
rat cycle,
career.
rat
That's
race.
right. So a lot of times, it's funny. A lot of times, I tell people what I do, my philosophy, and all sorts of stuff. They're like, "Oh, that's great," and you're so lucky and so forth. I'm like, hey, I ate more shares of my whatever you want to call it, to put myself in the position, and I've earned the right. And I encourage people to always make sure they put themselves in the position to lead the life they want to.
Totally, because like they say, luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
I love it.
We first think it's like for Zoom, I think that's what happened. They were a small company, but when the pandemic happened, Tony Robbins and others told them they wanted to do big events, and that's how they grew exponentially because they were already had the product and they could just scale it. So tell me, at what point did winning become less important than giving back to the community? It became more about service.
Well, I think I told you it was like 3 years ago. I had hit my milestone for what I thought provided me and my family the financial independence, yet I was still working.
Yes,
And I was just wired. It's like a drug, I guess. Like you can't get rid of it. And so for me, it was just that epiphany moment. But I will say this,
mm-hmm.
winning to me is different. Like, so I always played sports
Mm-hmm.
throughout my life. I played sports through college. I always just the environment I grew up, it was always a very kind of competitive environment. But even though I am no longer ambitious about my career and stuff, I still experience winning all the
Yeah,
time
totally.
through others. So that's an itch for me
Uh-huh.
that I think I'll always have for my life. I love to compete. I
Mm-hmm.
love to win. I love the fight. I love working with people. Like, we're in a market, we got competitors. we respect them, but we hate them.
Yeah.
And what's the edge that we can get? And the strategy and winning. And oh my gosh, I can think of so many times, when we got a deal over the line and oh, just
Mm.
it's those moments where you got a deal over the line, those moments when you're having the celebration dinner after an exit and you're sitting there with your investors, those are moments that are are so addicting.
Yeah.
And so for me, I still have competition. I have forms of that,
Yeah.
but it was just, I don't know, it was just, I just kept
Different way.
chasing and more and more and more. And I needed a moment to pick my head up. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what is the quality of my life or my family's life? What if I have more?
Yeah.
It isn't going to change anything.
Totally.
So, but it's hard sometimes to just pick your head up
Yeah.
and look around and be like, I don't need more, you
Yeah.
know? But I always felt like, I was a leader. I felt like as a leader, you're only successful because of your team.
Yes.
And, I just had always felt throughout my career I was on a mission. I tried to win with the customers, the company, and my staff and team. But I think I just had an innate feeling that I just hadn't given back enough. And then I still do it today, like people in their job search, and I'll pick a couple people, I'll mentor them, I'll try to help them find their next job. There were some founders, I gave them some complimentary help. And for me now, winning is like, you know, I'll get a LinkedIn or an email. This might be somebody I touched years ago. This could be someone I touched not that long ago. And just like, Jim, I just want to let you know I was thinking of you. And I remember when you spent this time with me, and I remember the advice you gave me. And I'm just grateful that I was able to achieve this. And I think you had a small part in that. And when I get feedback like that, and it doesn't happen all the time, but I usually get like some gratitude, maybe like once a month. That message for someone to say like, Jim, just congratulations. I mean, just thank you. I got a promotion and I never would have landed this job without your guidance. And just three sentences to me is worth more than any money anyone could give me. Just to know that I did something of value and it helped another human, and they they appreciated it and it had an impact. That to me is maybe just as exciting as when we close the deal or whatever, but I get a little bit of both. I still can live through my
Course. Huh?
clients and so forth. But
Yeah.
I
Like,
think if I was differently wired earlier in my career, I might have pursued a different profession. But since I had financial goals, but now being a teacher, a mentor, passing it on, seeing other people's success.
yeah.
I mean, there's people who've worked for me who are now CEOs and chairmans, and they've even surpassed even some of my biggest pinnacle career moments. And it gives me such great pleasure to know that I even played even a small role in helping them achieve that.
No, thank you. Thank you for having such a generous heart of giving back. And I think it's always important to appreciate people who help in whatever way, because then you get more of what you attract more of that. Like you attract more of the things to be grateful for, or you attract more. And I totally believe in that. And mentorship is very important for people to go from point A to point B, as well as it's nice that you are giving back. I try to give back whenever I can with whatever limited resources I have, because I like to collect good karma. But
I agree.
but several people have like helped me come this far in my journey as well, and the healing. So tell me, What's one thing that top performing teams need more than KPIs? Like everyone has KPIs, right? But what's the thing that differentiates them?
Well, I mean, we touched on it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people don't have good strategy.
Yes.
Sometimes people don't have good process.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people do the generic. Sometimes people do, what they've always done. I used to always push for just because I did something a certain way doesn't mean it's always the right way for every company that I work for. But at the end of the day, energy and attitude can take you a long way.
Totally.
And if we have a culture, you know, like low ego, low drama,
Mm-hmm.
we're we're in it together. We have high energy, we have high, you know, great attitude, and we're learners and we think like you could do a lot with that.
Totally.
Great experience, great knowledge, bad
Mm-hmm.
energy, it's not gonna, it's only gonna go so far. So I think in many ways, if you can build that culture,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it varies the type of culture
Yeah,
you're trying to create, and so forth. But at the end of the day, energy and attitude is the key thing. Too often, people, we're our own worst enemy.
totally.
And too often, people have too many self-limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh, we can't sell a deal like that. We
Yeah,
can't ask for that kind of commitment. We can't. Like, it's like, well, your job is not to be judge, jury, and executioner.
totally.
Like, so anyway, energy and attitude at the end of the day, I think
Very
if I
important.
had that, um, that goes a long way.
Thank you. So, what's something people won't guess about you?
All right. So, Anita,
Mhm.
um, I sometimes when I introduce myself to people, I do that game, two truths and a lie.
Uh-huh.
Would you like to do it with me?
Sure.
Are you familiar with two truths and a lie?
Not that much.
Okay. Do we have at least 5 minutes for me to do this?
Sure.
Um, it, I don't want to waste your time or hurt your item, but if you really wanted to know some unique things about me,
Uh-huh.
um, this could be a fun way to
Awesome.
do it. And let me find it in 2 seconds or less.
Mm-hmm.
And I am going to share my screen with you if you allow me to.
Sure. Let me just give you the.
And I am going to share with you three facts.
Okay. Oh,
And only one of them, only two of them are true, one of them's false.
okay.
And you
Mm-hmm.
can be the one to guess.
Okay. Awesome.
So, what people may not realize about me, Anita, is that I lived in Chicago
Uh-huh.
for over 9 years. And there was a moment in time at the gym, the health club I used to work out with, that
Uh-huh.
one day Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan came in to play basketball. And I actually played pickup basketball games with Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen.
Wow.
People wouldn't know that.
Yes.
The other thing they wouldn't know
Uh-huh.
necessarily is I have a wonderful daughter.
Mm-hmm.
She recently just graduated college.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they may not know that she was a big um, YouTube enthusiast, as many people her age. She and I used to go to VidCon all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and she was a big Minecraft enthusiast.
Oh,
And
wow.
one time, she and I entered a competition, a Minecraft build competition, and we
Mhm.
actually won it.
Wow. Nice.
The other thing, Anita, that people may not realize about me is
Uh-huh.
that at one point in time, I went on a business trip
Uh-huh.
to Tokyo, and as strange as it sounds, there was an arm wrestling competition,
Uh-huh.
and I somehow got entered into this competition, and I won the arm wrestling competition.
Nice.
So, Anita,
Yeah.
which of these do you think is a lie? Two of them are true, one
Okay.
of them is a lie. What do you think?
I think the Minecraft winning that Minecraft competition is a lie.
And you are right.
Oh, thank you.
And the reason why I'm surprised is most people don't guess that. They're usually like, really? You
Uh-huh.
didn't play basketball with Michael Jordan and so forth. But I would say for the times I've done this, and I did this recently for one of my
Uh-huh.
clients just to introduce myself. And of the people who voted, I think less than 20% picked the Minecraft. But the other two are
Thank
actually
you.
true.
I'm happy.
Um, I don't have a prize for you, but I can think of it.
Definitely. Thank you. So,
But there you go. There's a couple things that people wouldn't normally know about me, that
yeah,
there's a couple facts there.
that's very
But
impressive that you played with them. And also, in Japan, when you said you won a wrestling competition, I know Japanese people are much like, I would say, not as muscular as the people here. So I would totally say, okay, that's true. So let's go with
yeah,
rapid fire questions.
yes,
And
fire
we'll,
away.
yeah, because I know you have a hard stop and I wanted to finish before that, but I'll try to be as fast as possible. So, biggest sales buzzword that should disappear.
Biggest sales puzzle?
Buzzword that should disappear.
Buzzword. Um, oh gosh. Quick, quick, quick.
Just one word.
Um, um, Customer focused.
Awesome. Is AI exciting or overhyped?
Hmm. I think it's exciting.
Awesome. Hardest thing to scale, products, people, or culture?
I think it's products.
Awesome. Best advice you have ever received that made you successful?
When you're measuring success, think about your specific impact on the outcome.
Awesome.
There could have been an outcome
Mhm.
that anybody could achieve. What was the outcome that only would have happened because you were the one driving it? Always be conscious of your specific impact.
Awesome. Worst startup advice founders still follow?
Um, Grow at any cost.
Yes, totally true. Revenue growth first or profitability first?
I think you need revenue growth first, but I would say you need to have boundaries on the profitability. Sometimes just the nature of business
Yeah.
cycles and so forth, you may have to have a little dip there, but I would say you need revenue growth, but it can't be berserko like, I
Yeah.
mean, we see time and time all these companies who are high flying. There's businesses, I can think of one that grew to almost 200 million, and the valuation of that business is not going well just because they were losing so much money.
Yeah.
I mean, I can drive a lot of growth if I've got unlimited money to spend.
Totally.
That's not that's
Profit.
not really going back to my other statement.
Yeah.
Like, are you actually having an impact?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Eh,
So, favorite way to decompress after a successful quarter?
I'm a kind of a physical person, so I like to exercise. I'm a big hiker. I do
Nice.
spin. I like the lift. So something kind of exercise related.
Uh-huh. So, what instantly makes you trust or distrust a person?
I don't know how well I do, but I try to come from a humble
Uh-huh.
perspective. And if
Totally.
I see people with humility, and if they value humility,
Yeah.
even if they've had great success, it makes me want to trust them for sure.
Awesome. One leadership trait every leader should have or practice daily.
Lead from the front.
Yeah.
Um, Walk in your people's shoes, so to speak.
Yeah. So lead with example.
Yeah, lead from the front, be a service leader, lead by example. Um, you know, be I'm sitting in the office, I'm
Mhm.
looking at numbers. This number's high, this number's low. That's not leadership.
Yeah.
Go inspire someone, go teach someone something, lead from the front.
Yeah. So if you were to invite a dream dinner guest, alive or dead, who would that be and why?
Teddy Roosevelt.
Nice.
I he just seemed interesting
Mm-hmm.
that he really tried to serve people.
Awesome.
He tried to um change what the presidency was, but I thought even though he came from great wealth and
Yeah.
he represented big business,
Mm-hmm.
he he tried to serve people.
Thank you. One word your team would use to describe you.
Urgent.
Nice.
That's not a good word, but I'm trying to be honest with
Yeah, yeah.
myself.
No, no, totally. And there's no right or wrong answer for this. So, favorite productivity hack.
Oh, well, it's hard not to get quasi addicted to Claude Cowork and some of my Excel work and PowerPoint and file and oh my God, record my calls, download the transcript, summarize the note, put it in, so I don't know, like it's hard in our AI age not to get it's hard not to be enamored with some of the things you could do with Claude Cowork.
Yeah. So, and biggest lesson from your three exits.
It's not all about the money. There's a right way,
Mm-hmm.
there's a right way to do everything.
Totally. And I think you answered my next one, which is what belief about success do ambitious people need to unlearn?
It's not about them. Make sure you serve others as well.
Totally. So
I
now
think in those exits I saw, hey, we all want to make money. We all want to get paid.
totally.
Just make sure you take care of the people
Mm.
who allowed that exit to happen. And unfortunately, I have examples where that wasn't always the case. So,
Yeah.
get it right, serve others. We all love ourselves. Most of us, we love ourselves. We think
Yes.
we did great. The reality is, it wasn't all about you. And
Yeah.
just make sure you get it right.
So can I take a couple of more minutes while
Yeah.
closing? Okay. So fill in the blank. Success without dash is meaningless.
Humanity.
Yeah. Or purpose. I mean, it depends on,
Yeah.
yeah. And one last question. One thing people misunderstand about the sales leaders.
Um, a lot of times I think they misunderstand that they'll do anything or instruct their team to do anything to win a deal.
Hmm.
Many sales leaders, most sales leaders have a broad perspective and they want to do the right thing and they want to write good business and so forth. And I think a misunderstanding is that they're just blinded by closing anything they can close and who cares whatever happens to it kind of a thing. I think that is a misunderstanding.
Totally. So what is one last bit of advice you would give to the listeners before we end this session?
I don't know. Just be true to yourself. Set goals, dream big, know when it's time to commit and fight, know when it's time to recognize that your career isn't the most important thing.
Thank you so much, Jim. And so grateful for you making the time to share your wisdom with the listeners. I'm very sure that people will get lots of bits of information and strategies they can use, including your 4 pillars and focusing on the energy and the attitude, because that takes people through life. So, with that, we would like to end this session. So, listeners, tell us what topics you would like us to unpack next. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Happiness Factors for conversations that help humans thrive, produce, and survive.